Let's get popping and doing some more questions on the topic 2.3. So everything related to carbohydrates and lipids. So which molecule can be hydrolyzed? So you learned about two types of basic metabolic reactions: anabolism and catabolism. Anabolism is the formation of bigger molecules from smaller molecules, whereas catabolism, which sounds like a cat destroys everything and breaks everything apart. Catabolism is the breakdown of big molecules into small molecules. Now, in hydrolysis reaction, so in a hydrolysis reaction is a type of catabolic reaction. So it's a type of reaction that breaks a bigger molecule into a smaller molecule. Okay, so which of these molecules can still be broken down? Which of these molecules can still be broken down by a catabolic reaction called hydrolyzing, okay? So hydrolyzing just means breaking apart using water. Hydro means water, lysis means splitting apart. So it's a specific type of breakdown reaction in which water is used to split apart the molecule. So glycerol cannot be, because it is the smallest form of a molecule already. It cannot be broken down anymore. Maltose is a molecule, it's a monosaccharide, right? It's a monosaccharide. So it cannot, no, excuse me, maltose is a disaccharide. Disaccharide is a molecule that's made up of two monosaccharides. So let me show you. So if we look here, I want to find it. So here we have two glucose units, right? Now two glucose, and we're here in a liver cell. If two glucose units react together, so let me show you. So let's say they react together and water is released, so it's a condensation reaction. Then after it's put together, so the product formed will be called maltose. Okay, so maltose is the name we give to two glucose molecules put together. So maltose will basically look like this, sort of. Okay, it's going to be two molecules together, which means it can be split apart. Okay, it can be broken apart still. So maltose can be hydrolyzed into two glucose molecules, whereas fructose and galactose are, let me show you, are already in their smallest form. So galactose is a small molecule like this. It's not like attached to anything, so it cannot be broken down anymore. Same with where's galactose? Same with fructose here. Okay, it's also its own molecule, so they cannot be broken down anymore. But maltose was two glucose molecules, so it can be broken apart. So the answer will be B. Okay, what are these molecules? So again, they're showing us some structures. So we can see here, this is a super long chain of carbons, and then at the end we have this carboxyl group. So we automatically know this is going to be a fatty acid. So it's going to be C or D. It's not going to be A or B, it's going to be C or D. Now the question now is molecule 2 a glucose or a ribose? So molecule 2 is a ribose. A ribose is a sugar molecule just like glucose, but the difference is it is made up of 5 carbons. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's a pentagon, whereas glucose is a hexagon. It's made up of 6 carbons, okay? 6 carbons. So that's the difference. So we know this is going to be a ribose. It's going to be D. The answer will be D. Now, what is the difference between carbohydrates and lipids in energy storage? So what is the difference? So A, carbohydrates are used for long-term storage and lipids for short-term storage. Now that's wrong. It's the opposite. So lipids are used for long-term storage, whereas carbohydrates are used for short-term storage. So let me use an example. When you go running, let's say you're going to run 5 kilometers or whatever, your carbohydrates are pretty much used up within the first 20 minutes of exercise. From there on, you start using lipids, okay? So carbohydrates are not for long-term storage. They're used up so quickly, okay? They're not used for long-term storage at all. Lipids are, okay? So B, carbohydrates contain more energy per 100 gram than lipids. So basically, if you have 100 grams of lipids and 100 grams of carbohydrates, which one has more energy in it? The answer is lipids, okay? So this one is wrong. They're saying carbohydrates have more energy than lipids. No, lipids do. So C, carbohydrates are more easily transported to where energy is required than lipids. This is not necessarily, this is true because lipids are more difficult to be transported since they are hydrophobic. Like if you put lipids in water, it will float on the top, right? Now, what's the problem with this? Our blood is made up of water, right? Mostly water. So if you try and transport lipids in your blood to some other cell in your body, it's going to really struggle, okay? Because it doesn't dissolve well in blood, in water. Whereas carbohydrates can more easily be dissolved in the water or in the blood and be transported elsewhere. So the answer will be C. Now, what about D? Carbohydrates store food only in plants, whereas lipids store food only. No, that's just not true. They both, carbohydrates store food both in plants and in animals. So it's going to be C. I miswrote this. It's going to be C. Okay? Next one. Which molecule is a polysaccharide? So a polysaccharide is basically a chain of individual sugars, okay? Poly meaning many, and saccharide meaning sugar. So it's many sugars put together. So if we come back here, I can show you. This would be a polysaccharide. If many individual glucoses are stored together to form glycogen, okay? A polysaccharide. So cellulose. Could cellulose be a polysaccharide? Let me show you. Yes, it can. So if we look at a plant cell, here, this is how cellulose looks like. See, it's a bunch of glucoses put together. Okay, it's a polysaccharide. So cellulose could be. It's going to be A probably. What about B? See, B is fructose. Fructose is a monosaccharide. Let me show you again, monosaccharides. Here we have fructose. It's a single molecule. It's a single molecule, a monosaccharide. What about maltose? Again, we talked about maltose before. Maltose is made up of 2 glucose units. Let me show you here, right? If you put 2 glucoses together, let me show you, like this, now it's called maltose. This is called maltose, okay? So that would be a disaccharide, but still not a polysaccharide. Polysaccharide means many, not just 2. Now, sucrose is also a disaccharide. Let me show you. Sucrose is formed when you put glucose, a monosaccharide, and fructose, another monosaccharide, together to form a disaccharide. This is called sucrose, okay? So that's a disaccharide. So we got polysaccharide, monosaccharide, disaccharide, disaccharide. So it's going to be A. Okay, now here's a similar question. What is a disaccharide? We just saw that fructose, again, was a monosaccharide. Okay? We saw that galactose is here. It's also a monosaccharide. Also a monosaccharide. And lactose, so lactose is a disaccharide. Lactose is formed when glucose and galactose go together. Now we call it lactose. Okay? So the disaccharide. So it's going to be C. And ribose, we know what ribose is. Ribose is, let me show you here, this molecule. It's a monosaccharide. So here we go with C. That's it for this video. So I'll make another part where I just do another 5 multiple choice questions. So stay tuned for that. The more you can do, the better.